get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Tina Lucio here. I am an account executive at Microsoft. And today we're just going to be covering a little bit of kind of how Copilot works specifically in the sales and operations segment for everyone's business. So I think as most of us are familiar now, and we hear AI is in the news every single day. And thanks to the innovation that we've showcased and the impact that we've delivered as a company, we are really in a leadership, position to help bring more value to our customers through our solution portfolio. In 2019, I think as most of you might remember, we kind of announced our initial $1 billion investment into OpenAI. And since then, we've actually invested $12 billion more, again, all in an effort to bring more value to our customers through our solution areas. Now, I think something that we have noticed, specifically me as an account executive here at Microsoft, in the past 12 months, and really since the release of Copilot, I think our customers are really having a hard time understanding all the different, I would say, flavors of Copilot and which might deliver the most value for their organization. During its kind of early stages, Copilot was really looked at most as a call recording and transcription tool, which is great, but kind of the feedback that we've received from most of our customers is that while the time savings of meeting summary, call recordings, and email recaps are great, our customers need more to help build a case for their leaders to invest in Copilot, which is kind of what brings us to today's session. I believe most of the folks on the call have probably are familiar with M365 Copilot. This really is the kind of the mothership product that we went to market with as far as Copilot goes, and what most people think of when they hear the word Copilot. This is in the traditional apps like Office, PowerPoint, Word, Outlook, Teams, and so on and so forth. As I mentioned earlier, though, we have released so many different Copilots, and today we will be spending a little bit of time on these other products along with specific use cases on how sales teams specifically can benefit from them. Copilot for Sales is essentially built on large language modules and next generation AI from Copilot M365. However, it goes a step further by enhancing it and connecting it to your CRM platform, whether you're using Salesforce or D365 for CRM, to really bring sales-specific insights and recaps to apps like Microsoft Outlook, Teams, so on and so forth. So before I hand it over to the technical team here, we will be showcasing Copilot for Sales in the following areas today. We will show these integrations between both Dynamics CRM and Salesforce. However, for the sake of time, we're not going to go through every single integration between the two. Just know that anything shown in D365 can be replicated into Salesforce and vice versa. Ian will first walk us through the Dynamics integration for Copilot with Sales, and he will then hand it over to Chuck and Chris from the congruentX team to show the Salesforce piece. Of course, we want today's session to be valuable for you all, so we'll be monitoring the chat as we go through the content today. Feel free to post any questions, etc., and comments, and we'll close it off with an envisioning lab from the congruentX team. So with that being said, I will hand it over to Ian to kick us off.
Perfect. Thanks, Tina. Well, now is the fun part where we actually get to see Copilot for Sales in use. And like Tina said, what we did is we built on top of our M365 Copilot and added in integration into your CRM system. So salespeople, when they're working in the applications that they connect with their customers in, whether that's Outlook or Teams, they have a direct line to all of their information within their CRM to make sure they're better informed and also just make sure that they aren't doing double the work, looking in one screen in their CRM and working within Outlook. So the first thing we want to do when we get an email in is generate a summary. And Copilot for Sales is going to do a couple of cool things. So it's not only going to summarize the email or email chain that I got in, it's also going to pull in different information from my CRM. So whether that's Salesforce or Dynamics, you can see that this email is related to a specific opportunity that we have that's open for a couple of days, 41 days to be exact. And if I want more information, I can go ahead and pop out my Copilot for Sales sidecar, which is really where I can start interacting with the CRM data that I have. So first thing I want to do as a salesperson, right, once I get an email in, is make sure that it's saved back into my CRM. So it says Dynamics right here. That's what I'm demoing out of. But later, when Chuck and Chris go through their demo, they'll showcase how this works with Salesforce as well. So all I have to do is with a click of a button, press save, and Copilot for Sales will automatically suggest related records based on who this email is from, what open opportunities we have. So you can see I have 2 different open opportunities that it's suggested, as well as the account record that this contact works for. But if I wanted to tie it to a separate record, I have the ability to just search for any record that's housed within my CRM and connect it as an activity to that. The next kind of cool piece that Copilot for Sales does is it's going to highlight different key sales information. So all of this is pulling from my Dynamics CRM and just kind of highlighting, who this customer is, what open opportunities we have for them. And if I wanted to check Copilot's work, you can see that I have different annotations. So I can pop out and kind of see where this information is coming from. I also have the option to dive a little bit deeper within my CRM with just a click of a button. If I wanted to get, more information as to, who this contact is, so I can be more informed when replying to them. The next thing that we can do within this sidecar is just update different CRM records. So say, we see here that we want to have this opportunity completed by the end of November. I can quickly go into this opportunity record. And again, Copilot will showcase specific opportunity information from my CRM. But with just a click of a button, I can edit this record, or I can open up my CRM to edit it in there. So I'm going to go ahead and change the close date to the end of this month. And just like that, my opportunity record is updated without the need for me to go back into CRM and make sure that I'm tracking that. Instead, I can just interact with that data right within Outlook. The final cool thing that we can do within the sidecar is create new records. So say I didn't already have this contact tracked within my CRM, or maybe I wanted to log a new opportunity. I have the option to create a brand new record directly out of this sidecar. And then the really cool thing is that all of these forms are customizable. So if you have, say, custom entities that you want to be tracking within your contact and opportunity records, you can have them in this quick create, as well as you see you have the ability to make certain fields required as well. Now that I've understood kind of what we've been talking about with this opportunity, I've updated my CRM records, I've created them if I've needed to, and I've saved this email as an activity. Now it's time for me to go ahead and reply to Alex. So Copilot can help me in 2 different ways. The first way it can help me is it can help me draft a response email. So you can see here is based on the context of what the conversation is. Copilot will go through and give me different suggestions for kind of a kickoff place of what I want this email to be. I also have the ability to just in my own natural language kind of put the highlights of what I want to be included in this email and build from there. But I'm going to go ahead and just click make a proposal, and Copilot will do a couple of cool things. So again, it's taking context from the email that I just received, but it's also pulling in different opportunity records from my CRM to make sure that, if we have any discounts that are provided, pulling in different line items from our quotes that we've sent over regarding this. to make sure that we're getting the most valuable information in these email responses. Now, this is just a first draft, and I can go ahead and iterate on this in a couple of different ways before sending it off to the customer. So the first options we have are either, make it a little bit longer, make it shorter. We can also change the tonality of it. So maybe if we want to make it a little bit more formal, direct, or casual, we have the option to change that. And then I always think this one's kind of funny. We can also make it a poem if we desire. You know, probably not the best when interacting with the customer, but I found that it's a lot of fun for internal emails sending to colleagues. Sometimes you just want to spice it up and send them a poem that still relays all the information you need to relay. And finally, we have the option to just, again, in natural language, describe anything that we want to change before deciding that we want to keep this. So the second thing that Copilot can do before we send out this email response is that it can help us coach. So maybe we want to take a first stab at writing an email, but we would like Copilot's coaching suggestions. And I think it's always kind of funny when Copilot coaches itself that it just wrote. But you can see that it gives us suggestions over how we can improve tone, different reader sentiment and clarity. And if I want to just apply all of these changes, I can just click that button and it'll go through and redraft this email with all of the changes that it highlighted. And if you're like me and you have an engineering degree and you tend to write in a pretty scientific and dry language, I found a lot of benefit out of this coaching for Copilot where I just write out the full email that I want to send with all the context and then have Copilot coach me and make it a little bit more EQ focused. So that really wraps up a lot of the high-level features that we have within Copilot for Sales within Outlook. Chris is going to dive a little bit deeper in his demo into some of these features as well. So don't want to steal the thunder there, but the next application that I want to highlight some of our Copilot for Sales features in is going to be Microsoft Teams. These are really the applications that salespeople live and breathe in and interact with their customers every day. And Copilot for Sales is along with your sellers before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. So before the meeting, it'll send them a card within their Teams instance that gives them a meeting prep document, essentially. So who's going to be there, who's accepted, what opportunity we're talking about, as well as any relevant documents. And then during the meeting, Copilot is also there to help your sellers. So you can see here, Copilot's giving me different key sales information, as well as related documents that might be helpful for this conversation. All pulling from either my Salesforce or Dynamics CRM. Another cool thing that Copilot will do when recording and transcription is on is that if I join a meeting late, I can ask Copilot to go through and summarize the meeting so far. So this is really beneficial. Salespeople are usually hopping from call to call throughout their day. And if I show up 5-10 minutes late, instead of asking questions that might have already been asked or trying to retread a conversation, instead I can utilize Copilot to get caught up on the conversation that's been happening so far. And then I'm ready to actually engage and be valuable to the conversation. Another cool feature that Copilot has for your sellers while they're in their meeting is it can help them answer different questions that they have. So say we got a question about different packaging that we used. I can ask Copilot to search for that information, whether that's in my CRM, internal documents, and Copilot will go through and try to help me answer that question in real time. Really helping your sellers so they don't have to have a lot of follow-ups and parking lot, a lot of questions. I will be completely honest, it's a little bit hard to carry a conversation and also search questions with Copilot, read the answers, make sense of that answer, and relay it back in real time. This works a lot better when you have a couple of sellers on the line, so one person can do a little bit of research while the conversation keeps going. But it is a really cool feature that Copilot for Sales has directly within Teams. And now, like I said, Copilot for Sales is there before, during, and after your meetings. So after your meetings, Copilot will generate a full meeting recap as well as AI generated meeting notes and follow-up tasks. And Chris and Chuck will dive a little bit into the different playbooks that it can also tie in to these meeting recaps in a couple minutes. But I want to call out that this is extremely valuable, and me personally has saved me a lot of time. Instead of having to jot down, half thoughts into my OneNote or my legal pad that I have next to me. Instead, I can just focus on my customer conversations, and Copilot will go through and create meeting notes for me. And then you see down here as well is Copilot will go through and try to identify various follow-up tasks that I might have had. So whether that's updating CRM record or drafting a follow-up email, I can have all of these tracked as tasks within either my Dynamics or Salesforce CRM, and just making sure that we're, anything we've committed to a customer, we are actually following up on. So that was a very quick high-level overview of some of the functionality that Copilot for Sales has, both within Outlook for your sellers as well as within Teams. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Chuck and Chris from the congruentX team to walk through some of their Dialog Prime IP as well as the integration that we have with Salesforce CRM.
Man, that was amazing, Ian. Thank you first. I think you're awesome no matter what Copilot says about you. Anyway, I hope I've been in CRM for 20 plus years, and I hope it lands with the folks on this meeting the same way that what this is doing lands with me. Is people literally are not having to do, I'm making air quotes if you can't see me, do CRM to do your work anymore. And you think about it, finally, the way we work is caught up with the way some of the things we did at home. So if Ian and I are going for a walk, and how many people have an Apple Watch or an Android watch? It just says, it looks like you're going for a walk. Do you want to track it? You don't have to fill out a form. So if you noticed, Ian's not filling out forms. He's just doing his stuff. And all these scenarios have a human in the loop. And that's where I want to kind of humanize this a little bit, because I want to talk about a person that each of you has probably in your company, and that person has a job to do, and it affects us all. And we kind of call her Mary. She's a chief revenue officer. And what we're gonna do, Mary has, I think, like 18 months to implement her plan when she takes the job as a chief revenue officer. So she's got to deliver revenue, or they go find another chief revenue officer. So her problem is she can't implement her plan because, according to Salesforce, 91% of the data that's in CRM is just somebody's perception, or it's just plain wrong. So she really can't tell what's going on with her team, whether her plan is working or not. So if we're not a chief revenue officer, that's kind of sad for Mary, but it's important for all of us, because if revenue is bad, it affects all of us. So Ian just showed you how we can take literally almost all of the friction out of getting good data, accurate data that's not perception, that's reality, into your CRM. And he's even offering back some cool efficiencies at the same time that's going to save your customer service and sales team time at the same time. So now what Chris and I are going to focus on is the next part of helping, let's call her Mary and her team to use that data. That's now that she's got good data, we're going to help her use that data to do more and do better. So our first scenario that Chris is going to talk about is we're going to use AI to help and this could be a sales conversation or it could be a service conversation, but to improve a sales conversation with playbooks that are fueled by a copilot. So there's a lot of science behind this, and good sales reps ask, or let's say average sales reps ask situational questions like, how many users do you have? Better sales reps ask problem or pain questions like, what kind of issues are you guys running into? The best sales reps ask impact questions. What happens if we don't fix this? Or what happens if you do fix it? And they ask why now questions. So a sales rep on Mary's team just had a call with a potential client. He texted Mary, hey, I crushed it. We had this amazing call. And he sends his follow-up email, just like Ian showed. He doesn't have to enter anything in Salesforce, which is Chris is going to show you. But more importantly, he's going to show you that while the rep thinks he has a great call, Mary can see how well we're improving with our skills or where we need to work. So over to you, Chris.
Yeah, but first I want to make sure that we don't make Ian a liar, because everybody came here to see these tools work against that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go in here, and I'm not going to demo everything Ian showed you, but I do want you to see that you can see the words here are now Salesforce. You can now see my information I'm getting here from Salesforce. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this contact here. I can see the information. I'm going to go in. I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to change that last name to, let's pick someone type in the window any last name. So this is not fixed. Anybody give me a name in the window. You know what? Let's use the lady's name who just put a comment in the window, so you guys know that's not fixed. There you go, Kenya. We're going to update that record. Now I'm going to navigate over to Salesforce, and I'm going to look at the Bonance record. And then from inside of here, I'm going to pull up the opportunity record that we just modified. Okay. And then inside the activity record, we can go look at the details and see this particular contact. And you can see it's already been updated to test Kenya. So again, the tools that you saw, the things that happen, all work against Dynamics or Salesforce. But we wanted to at least show you guys so we can put proof in the pudding. So hopefully you guys see that and know that we've updated that. But to move on to the story, what Chuck was talking about is the ability to see and light up your CRM, understand the call volumes that are coming in, and more specifically, how do I get better at that? How do I coach and see what my sales team members aren't doing? And in some of our IP, we wanted to come in and show you that running in Salesforce. Unfortunately, some of the data that we have here is a bit old, but again, you guys can see the fact that the capabilities and the functionality of the system is in Salesforce. But for the demo, we're going to switch over to a more demo environment with data so you guys can see that. And here you can see that a salesperson, Daniel Adam, made this call, and it's an introductory call. So we can see that a playbook was run on this call, and Daniel selected it. It was a discovery call with the customer. And that happens when you set up the call. You actually pick what type of call it's about right inside your Outlook. What happens during the call is that while you're on the call, the system is processing the information. And Chuck mentioned the ability to see what kind of questions did they ask? Were they engaging? Or they not? How long? And you know, you guys all been on that call where the person doesn't talk back. They didn't say anything. Can I use that detail to help me say whether or not this deal is good or not? I can even see color personality profiles of the people that were on that call. We did show you the recap capabilities that are available, but moving over to the mentoring tab, we've got several different playbooks that can run on a call, and you too can create these playbooks, whether you have a personal or a business process that you want to follow, whether it's for sales, whether it's for service. I saw there was a bunch of different questions. It doesn't matter. It can be across your entire enterprise. But in this case, we can look at a discovery call and we can get some instant information from the call, and we can see the team did ask some questions, but they missed the opportunity to talk about current workflow and challenges. And then some steps on how do I improve that? The team should ask the core discovery programs. And then I can also look at, well, what are those questions? Or I can even do a review at the end of the call to say, here's the review for this call, so that next time that Daniel's on a call, he can see how he can get better. The other thing we also show is your relationship and how your relationship is with your call. And the relationship is based on 7 elements. And these relationship elements help you build your relationship with your customer and how to improve upon it. Finally, in the SPICE playbook that we're running, we can pull out the situational questions that were asked, the pain point questions, impact related questions, rate them, and show where salespeople may not want to ask that particular question. They may want to get something back. But all of these can be used real time to get better. Chuck, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So really quickly, we want to go into the next scenario and show you how we can use some of that now good data that Ian talked about. And let's just ask this as a question. You ever looked in Salesforce and said, well, wow, this rep really thinks this opportunity is going to close this month, but you just don't feel like it, but you need some science behind this. And there is some science, and there's certain things about deals that do close that we can now track. And Chris is going to show you a few of these. One is communication. One word is frequency. How often is the rep reaching out to the customer? And the other is reciprocity. Is the customer reaching back? Is the customer answering? And also, we can usually answer 2 or 3 questions about the deal. What will this accomplish for the business? Why? And the deals that close when we think they're going to close, are the why now. Why are we doing this, but why are we doing this now? And we can now track these things with literally what the customer has said, not what the rep thinks. So Chris, maybe you could show us a couple of these things.
Absolutely, Chuck. So you can see here in my deal screen, not only can I see my different deals, but my deals and all deals within the system. I'm also provided with items like RevOps alerts, so I can see that items may have not been contacted. But what Chuck is talking about is the engagement timeline activity. And just by looking at this list and going down the list, I can actually see ones that are in danger that don't have any activity since they've been created, or I can see ones that seem to be going back and forth a lot, which is great, which means that I'm able to see more details. If I drill back into these, I'm then presented with a screen that brings my calls, my summaries, everything together along with the engagement timeline. So now I'm quickly able to see where I'm at in my deal, as well as how am I doing. And the inbound communication, the green circles, are from the customer coming in. The outbound are responses. And really, you don't want to see something where there's an inbound and you don't have a reply, right? So it gives you a great visual indicator of how well you're doing in the team. Also, you can see here that from 10/29 to 11/5, we didn't have any response. So there's a couple of days that was blank. It may be okay. It may be a holiday weekend. But the point is, having this data in your system, you can now take actions on it with the rest of the Power Platform system as well. We also have the capabilities of showing you the meetings, the calls, and as you switch on the meetings, you can see the notes that show up. And I can also go back to the other meeting and see the notes from that meeting. So it gives you a comprehensive view of seeing what's happening, both your engagement with the client and the calls and details around them, all in one screen without jumping all around to the different activities and opportunity screen. It brings it all together.
That's amazing, Chris. I'm in a hotel right now. and Moneyball was on, and I always watch it. I can't not watch it if it's on. And it made me think about this next scenario, which is um, about baseball. And it kind of feels like what we're able to do with this good data is kind of like Moneyball. And there was a really amazing pitcher, Hall of Fame, excuse me, batter, Ted Williams. And Ted always focused on hitting the right pitches. And he tracked every pitch ever thrown to him. And basically, if you threw it low and outside and it wasn't strike three, Ted was going to say good pitch. So as Mary is kind of going through her week and her team is going through their week, she's got to be wondering, is my team focused on the right thing? So what if we could programmatically do that and help people focus on the right things and reduce stress? So I think all of us, no matter how much we love our job, has on Sunday evening gone, man, I got a lot to do this week. What do I need to focus on? But you're also trying to focus on family. So what if we could do both of those things at one time? Focus on the right things programmatically and reduce some stress when we need to be at home with our families. And Chris, maybe you could show us a little bit of that.
Sure, Chuck. It was just answering one of the questions here about it, but we are jumping back and forth in between Salesforce and Dynamics to show data. And the reason why we're doing that is their current data wasn't current. But if you watch the video recording, Samir, you'll see that we did do some Salesforce demoing earlier a few minutes ago. You had just missed it. So what Chuck's talking about is our Sunday Stress Buster app. And I love the name of it as myself, because as you come in, you're wanting to know, I'm sitting down having a cup of coffee and how's the week going, right? Or I want to see on Sundays, what does my week look like? I want to plan for, what's my revenue look like from the previous quarter to this quarter? Am I tracking well? What do I need to do here to help that? I got about 49 days left. I also can see what are my upcoming meetings? What's going on this week? How many I have per day? Who are they with? How long are they for? So I can kind of mentally set myself and then see and drill down into the details of each one of the meetings. Maybe there's something that I need to do prior. So it's bringing this information out, as well as, the leads that I have for this week. What am I doing in my leads? Are they warm? Am I working them? Also, looking at opportunities. How much longer till they close? Are they closing in 2 days, 30 days? But not from a CRM perspective, but from an agent perspective. I want to push out information so that, hey, I'm closing 2 deals in 7 days. What else do I need to do? And Chuck is correct. These screens running against the Salesforce data look exactly the same. There's no difference in these screens. These are what is what's called a Power App, and we can connect these Power Apps directly to either system. So that's a little bit about the weekly snapshot and being able to bring that data forward, see it, and get actions on it instead of having to drive through hundreds of CRM screens. It gives you a really quick, at a glance, and how to work and know what's happening for the week. Reduce that stress, right, Chuck?
Absolutely. So the last one we're going to cover, and then we'll take any questions you have and close out, is I see all these people on LinkedIn right now. It's kind of it's funny, but it's exciting. Is people are going to visit customers again. We're starting to get travel budgets. We're starting to actually go visit customers again, and so much of the technology has been sort of this COVID, post-COVID in kind of team Zoom call type thing. And that's amazing, but we visit customers now, and especially in many industries. So an interesting statistic Chris and I discovered was 82% of customers now feel that sales reps aren't prepared for visits. And it's very frustrating to them. And there's a lot of reasons for that we can go into. But if you ask sales reps, 50% of sales reps go, yeah, I'm not ready for meetings. And so I'll give you a real world example. And we won't talk about names, but the app that Chris is about to to show you the Copilot is really one of the original thoughts behind this was a customer who had people who called on clients, and they had CRM that had these big long forms, so they couldn't open it up. So they would literally call into the office and talk to inside sales who had other things to do before they went in to see the customer to visit with them and try to grow their business, address service concerns, etc. So Chris is going to show you an agent that can help a salesperson be infinitely more effective on an on-site visit.
Thanks, Chuck. So one of the big things we have is field sellers, right? People out in the field. And Chuck mentioned earlier, we want technology to work the way you're at home with your Alexa. So you can see that the app knows where I'm at on the map, and it knows what's my closest customer. So when I'm on site or I'm heading on site and I get to that location, the customer just comes up on the app. I don't have to go type and search for it. And once I do that, it'll then bring forward information that's specific to that client. How many orders do they have? How many pounds of information do they ship? What's the current revenue and margin for them? And so I don't get caught off guard. I can actually see if they have any open cases or returns that haven't been worked. This was a huge deal during COVID because it allowed them to not have to call back to the office to talk about supply and logistic issues. They were able to see it directly on their app. This app has actually replaced their access to CRM. They're actually using it over 60 times a day per person. But in here, you're able to see details that are brought forward right from your CRM. And all of this is customizable, including a sales leadership or a pipeline board as well. And then Chuck had also mentioned that, you're having meetings on site and you want to use some of these tools. So we're working on embedding that inside this app, but I did want to take a moment to show you that from your screen inside the app, you can go down and you can see that there's meetings in here, and you can see that's a Teams meeting, but this is an on-site meeting. I can go into this meeting and I actually can press record and record that call when I'm on site. And then when I end the call or I end the on-site visit, all of the data that was collected will all be summarized and update all of my accounts and make it easier for me as a field seller. By the time I even get back to my car, I have all my notes, my account's been updated. It even gives me the ability to go in and mark that I have been on this account, what work I did for the account, and even close out the task. So if you've got people who are working on accounts and they're trying to do an activity, I can go in, I can add a task, I can do all the things that I would do. And then upon leaving, what did you do? I was on site meeting with Chuck and I did X. And I can just say, boom. And now we've already updated the system of how long you were there and what your notes were. And now all the CRM's been updated just by you having your app. You didn't type anything in other than your note. You can even speak to it, and everyone's able to use that data. And then your CRM, all of a sudden, the data friction's gone. Back to you, Chuck.
I think that's it, except for questions, right? Anybody have any questions? Anybody want to talk about anything fun? Anybody want to talk about any AI, anything you want to know? We're totally open.
Well, Ben, you can pop them in the chat. Otherwise, as you know, we'll wrap up. But I think on behalf of Tina and Ian, Chuck, yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it probably can be, it's really cool, but it probably gets you thinking there's no form like CRM, or maybe you're not always seeing the Copilot user interface like you saw from Ian. And that's kind of the difference between the different technologies here. Sometimes you have, I didn't know what this word meant until a couple years ago, but agentic experiences where things just happen for you based on something you're trying to do. Or sometimes you a chat-like experience. And Samir, looks like you got a question.
I think thanks a lot for this. This is helpful, but I think it's like drinking from a fire hose, like lot of information, lot of screens. So I think if you share the recording, I think that would be helpful. But just one quick question, right? So the last point that you mentioned, on-site, and then you said something about starting the visit. I didn't follow it, because if it's on-site, I'm assuming it's an in-person meeting.
It
So
is.
what exactly is being recorded?
Yeah, so one of the use cases is that you're on site and you want to take notes, right? But you don't want to be talking down, writing down. You just want to have the conversation. So you have the ability to take your app and press the button inside the app, which will then record the phone call, do all the summarization, execute the playbooks. And by the way, it already knows where you are because it's geofenced, so it connects it to the right account. It updates the account that you would visit and can do all kinds of things. So if you think about what an on-site visit may look like for your rep, in a particular use case, their on-site had a lot of different things. It wasn't just a meeting. They actually had to go out to shelves, make sure they were clean. They took some pictures of how it looked. They did some inventory review, handled RMAs, and they also needed to check in how much time they spent on site. All of that was replaced with the AI and the Copilot.
Got it.
Kind of a
So
go ahead.
got it. So basically, if I'm like, for example, if I'm meeting on site with you, Chris, right now, face to face, I'll still have to then tell you that, hey, are you okay if I'm recording this?
Right.
That's because there's no phone call. Again, right? I heard you saying recording a phone call. There is no phone call going on, right?
Correct,
So,
Samir.
Okay, got it.
Apologize for the confusion. What
No,
I was
that's
trying
fine.
to say
So,
was
there's a
it's
disclaimer.
just like you recording a Teams phone call, but you're recording your on-site visit.
Got it. Okay, makes sense.
I think this is a perfect opportunity to say, if you want to take a deeper dive, we obviously are thanking everyone for joining. It is so much information. We are offering a free 2-hour envisioning lab, which can include going over all of this information, your challenges, mapping out strategic priorities, also kind of having optionally Salesforce, review your Salesforce incident to uncover some hidden efficiencies and adoption opportunities, and dive into what Chris and Ian both went over in your own situation. So I'm going to drop the link here, and if you're interested, you can, register for that. And Scott or Tina, they would both be with joining that Vision Lab as well, and reach out. So set that up. And there,
Yep.
Tina shared.
Yeah, here's the QR code if you do want to register, but we'll follow up with the link as well that Tasha put in the chat here. So,
Yeah,
and we'll make sure you guys have access to the recording from today's session as well.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, thanks, team. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks, Ian.